at 6:02. Sorry, not 5:02. All right, so the board met in closed session. We had one item, no decision was, no decisions were made in closed session. And if we could go ahead and stand for the pledge of allegiance, if you wish to join us, if you don't, that's cool too. Salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I just want to take a moment to note to the community that this is the free speech portion of our board's business agenda. And as such, I want to reiterate to you that if you do not perform the Pledge of Allegiance for religious, political, social, or personal reasons, you are most welcome here on our public school board. And I do remain seated in solidarity during this exercise as a visual reminder of that American freedom.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. Okay. Okay, announcement of, I always do that backwards. Sorry, guys. Announcement of action taken in closed session. No action was taken. Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Point of clarity though, we want on consent calendar, item 7 to just be removed. The board would not consider item 7 on the consent calendar. So
Okay.
if you'd adopt with that
We have a
amendment.
motion to approve the agenda minus item 7 in the consent agenda. I'm sorry.
Also, pulling item number 14 from the consent agenda for discussion.
We have a motion to approve the agenda with item 7 deleted from the consent agenda and item 14 pulled from the consent agenda.
All motion.
Thank you, Mr. Bruno. Second, Mrs. Anderson, and general consent. We can roll call.
I think since we have one telephonically, we need to roll call for each.
Okay, it's just, all right, Mrs. Anderson. Aye. Dr. Lee.
Aye.
Mr. Bruno.
Aye.
And Mrs. Pope.
Aye.
The chair votes aye.
One more just point of order. If it is easier to hear in the audience even, and maybe on Zoom, if you make sure you use your mic, thank you.
Sorry.
No, there you go.
Woo. All right, organizational reports. Could we have Vanessa Mason provide the CUTA report?
Hi, good evening. So with 6 student contact days left in the school year, I think the district staff, teachers, students are all kind of breathing a sigh of relief. We're on the final countdown and we're very excited to end the school year. Looking forward what's coming up with summer school sessions for the month of June. And many teachers are participating in summer school options and we're just flabbergasted by learning in an entirely new environment, and then looking forward to what next school year will bring. Hopefully, we'll get
There she is. Grace Small.
and if there's any questions from me or
Are you there, Lee?
Yeah, it looks like all of us here in Zoom land, we keep fading in and out, and it looks like the Wi-Fi signal is low there, it says.
All right, can you hear us?
We can hear you now.
Right.
I got the church giggles, I'm sorry. Isn't this fun? Anyway. Okay, Marie, you're on.
There we are.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi, Marie Huggins from Center CSEA 610. This month at our chapter meeting, we will be honoring the classified employees of the year. And chapter members will receive a $25 gift card from the chapter. Center High School is Bonnie Shiro. McClellan High School, Dennis Stevens. Wilson Riles Middle School, Ron Bione. Dudley Elementary School, the kitchen staff were chosen, and that's Larissa Clement, Irene De Leon, Laura Kraft, and Hilda Navarez. And North Country Elementary is Tatiana Dorofeev, Oak Hill Elementary, Nancy Popovich, Spinelli Elementary, Evelita Tongol, and the district office complex is Angela Espinoza and Nicholas Williams.
That helped, that didn't help. There we go, okay. Sorry, Marie.
Okay, and we will also award the Deborah Brown Memorial Scholarship to 2 students in the amount of $250 each. And that is Vivian Chang, student, and the parent is Jenny Ho, a chapter member, and Kaya Dorsey, and the parent is Tanya Dorsey. And this week, as it was alluded to earlier, we completed voting on 2 MOUs, and the one was consent agenda 14, number 6, and that was the fiscal analyst job description and placement on the salary schedule, and we did ratify that. And we thank you for pulling consent agenda item number 14.7 due to the reduction in hours on the account technician position, as it did not ratify, and that gives us a chance to go back to the bargaining table and see if we can reach another agreement. That's all for me.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
How are the classified people feeling as far as precautions that have been taken and their return to work?
I haven't been hearing any major concerns. I think that they've pretty much, a lot of them have been back to work for months. And so it's not new for a lot of our people because our ISs and a lot of the people have been back to work. And so I think that it's just, I think they're probably ready for summer break though.
Because I know with the classrooms, that was all taken care of, and that's a very out in public kind of thing. So I wanted to make sure that classified as well felt like they were being taken care of.
I think for the most part, I think people are feeling pretty well protected and taken care of and valued in the process. So thank you for asking.
That's good to hear. Thank you.
Thank you, Marie.
Congratulations to everybody.
Yes, very much so.
Okay, moving along to item number 10 on the agenda, committee updates. If we can have Mr. Deason provide one of his realistic committees updates.
Good evening. Start with the full day kindergarten program. If you've driven by at all to take a peek at it, I'd have to say that it matches the rest of the site quite nicely. It looks like it's always been there, and that just shows that the architects really know what they're doing when they're picking a spot to locate additional facilities. As far as what's been going on, the sidewalks have been poured, ceiling tiles have been installed, the electrical and the low voltage was connected, and it all works. I had on things that were going to be happening next week, that the flooring was going to be going in, but it's already going in. And that the awnings were going to be put up, but they're already out. I noticed yesterday when I was there. So a couple of things that will be going on next week, the rolling whiteboards will be installed, and the TVs, the 3 TVs in each classroom will be installed. Also additional things that are going on, the wrought iron fencing is going up both along the street and in the kindergarten yard, and the landscape is starting. And then on top of that, on June 1st, we'll be doing our first punch walk, which means that we're on the home stretch for that project. For the Rex Fortune property, we're finalizing the construction documents. They're at about 95%, which is good because on June 1st, they go into DSA, which means they have to be 100% in about a week and a half. And then 17 weeks after that, approximately, at the August board meeting, the next steps for that project will be bringing you the amendment to the construction contract. Remember I told you the leaseback contract had two pieces, the pre-construction and then the construction. So we'll amend that contract with the greatest maximum price, so you'll actually know exactly what the cost of the school is going to be. It'll be quite exciting to find out, and then if the board approves, we'll have that construction contract in place, and they'll probably hit the ground running and start working on grading the site and things like that. And then for the CTE program, basically the same thing. The construction drawings are being finalized. They have until July 2nd to have those finalized because they go into DSA on July 2nd. And then construction starts December this year, 2021. So that one's moving along. You do have an item before you tonight, and it is for a contract to go through the CEQA process, which is the California Environmental Quality Act. And there's 13 different environmental features that we have to make sure that we're either not disturbing or that we're mitigating the effects of. And some examples would be light pollution, noise pollution. We have to take care of the endangered species. So there's 13 different items that we have to make sure that we're not messing with nature. And I have just a couple of other things, and I put it under other stuff. We are putting together a contract right now to do some HVAC improvements. We have allotted about $1 million of the COVID money to start replacing our most inefficient and expensive maintenance-wise HVAC units. So hopefully we'll be able to get our consultants to help us figure out which ones those are and get it out to bid and get the contract set before June 30th. I'm excited about that. Any questions?
In regards to the HVAC at Oak Hill, as well as the ones that you're purchasing possibly, what filters will we be using?
We'll be using at least for 13. So the new units, we have units similar to the ones that are on the backs of these buildings. They're called BART units. And so the Oak Hill project has some of the newest BART units that are out, and they will accept our 13 filters, as well as anything that we put in to replace our aging equipment will also be able to filter like crazy.
Very nice.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right, thank you,
And
Mr.
I'll give the
Reeser.
rest of my time to Mike because I know he has a long word.
Okay, reports and presentations, item 11, and the Williams complaint process Q3 report, don't blink.
I'm happy to report there were no complaints this quarter.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. Item number 12, comments from the audience regarding items that are not on the agenda. Do we have any comments, Carol?
I have nothing.
Oh, well, then I won't bother reading this statement. Anyone else in the room? No. Okay. All right, moving on to board and superintendent reports. Let us start with Mrs. Pope tonight.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Kelly. Just a couple of things. I did go to Oak Hill with Mr. Deason. Do you mind if I take this off? I was told that they can't hear me on Zoom with my mask off, so it's okay with the present board.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're plexiglass apart and I've been vaccinated, so okay.
I did walk Oak Hill with Mr. Deason, Mr. Lynn, Miss Kelly, and as he said, the units that were installed or the classrooms that were installed, looks like they have been there forever. So, great job to the architects with that. That's amazing.
If it's approved tonight, we will be also receiving or purchasing 21st century furniture to go with the 21st century classroom. And hopefully any other facilities or improvements, the same type of furniture would be purchased. I was unable to attend the top 10 in Purple Court, and I'm sorry. I did have an emergency in Houston, Texas that I had to attend to, but I wanted to congratulate all students that participated in those two events. They are very remarkable and great events, and congratulations to all. I personally want to thank Ryle's administration. Recently, since a class or school has started, the students have been dropping their lunch, some of their trash behind school of Ryle's and up to Redwater. And once addressed by administration, I noticed that Mr. Holmesley and some of the campus monitors took their Escalade, AKA their golf cart, and started picking up trash around the neighborhoods. So I thank you, and I know my neighborhood thanks you, so very much appreciated. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mrs. Pope. Dr. Lee, would you like to go next?
Certainly. So I just want to say to everyone in the community, happy Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Last month, our board did authorize a condemnation against the national rise in AAPI racial violence. We also sent out resources, and we hope that students and families will find the actions that we're taking to ensure that Safe Schools for All means Safe Schools for All in Center Joint Unified School District to be meaningful. I'm really curious to know from some of our educators, what are some of the ways that you are celebrating Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month with your classrooms as we wrap up this school year? We have a limited number, as the CUTA representative did mention, of days left, something like 6 contact days. So hopefully we're able to do some celebrations around this important Heritage Month. Feel free to send me a note, drop me an example. As we head into graduation season here, I want to wish all of our graduating middle and high school students a job well done on your graduations. I know that many of you worked so hard during a most trying time to achieve this milestone, so we really look forward to celebrating with you. We had some great conversations at my May drop-in office hours. Suzanne from Moms Demand Action dropped in to thank the board for approving the action to inform families and students about gun safety in the home. And just as a reminder, my office hours are first Mondays on Zoom, accessible to all. So see you all June 7th, 4:30 to 5:30, and the links are there on the board website. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. Mrs. Anderson.
I'm looking forward to graduations. It's something that we didn't get to do last year, and I just felt so bad for those kids, so it'll be nice to see it happen this year. And I know in years past we've had great celebrations this month with dancers and all kinds of things going on at the high school. Great activities, but they just haven't had the time to put all that together this year. And with COVID, it's probably not a great idea to have extra events like that. Also, I wanted to bring up, we received a letter after the meeting last time about me adjusting my mask. I have a condition that makes me dehydrate really easy, so I'm constantly drinking, and that's why I was adjusting my mask. Everybody up here has been vaccinated. There's new plexiglass in between each one of us, so I don't think anybody was being put at risk. And I know online you probably can't see the plexiglass, so I just wanted to bring that to the attention of the public, that it is there. Everybody up here feels protected, I believe. And that's why I was drinking during the meeting. And that's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Anderson. And I'm going to go next. So it's been a busy month. I had the first delegate conference for the California School Board Association. Went to my new delegate orientation, which was very interesting and exciting, and went to the caucus for our Region 6, and then attended the actual delegate assembly on Saturday and Sunday of this past week. I also completed MIG 4, Masters in Governance 4, and I have Masters in Governance 5 coming up this weekend. So Friday and Saturday, that's my last 2 classes. Learning lots of great things that I should have known all along, some that I did, some that I'm improving upon. So that's great. It's good for the whole district to have that, expertise, be able to tap into that. And then, as Del Rey mentioned, we did go visit Oak Hill Elementary, and that was wonderful. I wanted to see the new kindergartens. And she's right, they look like they were built, they don't look old, but they look exactly the same as the rest of the buildings, and like they belonged there from day one. And it's unusual to think that there was that much space to put a double and a single building in that little corner, but there was plenty of room and it looks beautiful. And the classrooms, like she said, are, the 21st century. We've got smart boards and TV outlets and all kinds of things going on. So it's really exciting to see that going in, and the landscaping looks fabulous too. So thank you for that. It's decent. And I wanted to say welcome to our new hires. We have Julia Jackson, Student and Family Support Assistant, new Josephine Ryan, Instructional Specialist, Autism, and we have 3 retirements in our classified staff. So let's see, wait a minute, is this classified? I'm sorry, it is. Lois Bolton from Cafeteria, Michelle Churchill, Account Tech, and Roberta Sherry, Health Assistant. Good luck in your next phase of life. Hopefully there's some travel and grandkids and happy, fun hiking things going on. And also congratulations on promotions for Ambi Brackett, Alyssa Demal, I'm sorry, I just murdered your name, Domalakis, and Shelley Tompkins. Then we have classified retirements. Congratulations to Loanne Jackson from North Country Elementary and Candace Ray from Wilson C. Riles. We have a new hire, Kathleen Brown, and a promotion, Colleen Pilcher. So it looks like we got a lot of movement going on. I understand that we are fully staffed for summer. So I'm really excited about that because I know that's been the big talk about teacher shortages and, teacher burnout, understandable. People are like, I want to be here, but I'm tired. And I get that. So just kudos to our staff and kudos to the people that did all the hiring that we were able to staff up for summer. That's fantastic. So, and then looking forward to the graduations next week. I'm super excited to see all the little faces and yeah, it's gonna be great. That's important. And then let's go to Mr. Ritter, actually. Yeah, I will go ahead. Don't worry.
Go ahead.
That's okay.
Are you sure? And I'll be quick tonight too. I just want to acknowledge that as we're wrapping up this school year, there seems like it's so busy, but we start to already look to the future, but also we're looking to the summer. This summer program is much larger than we've ever done. And so I need to give some kudos to Mr. Jordan and his team to get this all staffed and ready and organized. So thank you, Mr. Jordan, for making that happen. We have about 1,000 students already enrolled and ready to go, and we keep getting more. So that's quite a big undertaking while we're continuing to close one year and plan for the new year. One of the things that we're continuing to plan for right now based on what we're hearing is that full return. And then we're really wrestling with what that option for our families who want the virtual option, the independent study option will look like. So as that guidance comes out, we will continue to communicate that to our community to make them aware of the opportunities that they would have. And then I just want to congratulate the students that are promoting. We'll get an opportunity to see them. We can't shake hands like we used to, but at least we can be there in spirit and share with them the accolades and the steps that they've taken in their lives. So I'm happy to be a part of that. That is always the culminating event. And Ms. Anderson, as you pointed out, it was hard last year when we couldn't do what we normally did. And so I think it'll give us a little piece of closure for our students as well. And then finally, I think I said this every month, I just want to thank how remarkable our staff is, our board. We have a great district. People are working really hard to do the right thing for kids, and I appreciate everyone's role and contribution to making that happen. So I will leave it with that. Finally, the last thing, I am looking forward to the board workshop on May 29th. And so I think that'll be a great opportunity for the board to work together with me and our facilitator. And I think that'll be a great Saturday day. Okay. Thank you.
Good beginnings.
Good beginnings, yes.
Because we are a new board with 3 new members, so that's wonderful. Okay, Mr. Bruno, you're up.
Okay, I actually had requested to go last on the board reports. There's been some stuff on my mind since last month's meeting. First, I want to say I got the opportunity to go to the top 10 dinner at Center, and it was really impressive. Getting to hear from teachers the impacts that students have had on them, instead of the usual story of how teachers have had impacts on students. It was wonderful. Those kids are absolutely amazing kids. They're young adults, but they are absolutely amazing, and I was honored to be there. So that was a really big positive that was a pleasure to be a part of. Something that came up at last month's meeting, we were hearing about all the hard work and long hours that some people were putting in at the district. And I myself have recently had a few health issues, and I work for a different school district during the day. And I've had some coworkers dealing with health issues who are reluctant to take time off. We are here to serve students and the public, and our work's important. But I want to remind all of you to take care of yourselves also. Take the time that you need. Don't burn yourself out, please. Just seeing that in my other district, I want to let you all know how much I appreciate all the work you do. But first and foremost, take care of yourselves also. And then the other thing, and I would like to preface this by reminding everyone that this is not an item on the agenda, so this is not up for discussion right now. I just need to get this off my chest. Some of what happened at last month's meeting has been bothering me literally every day since, and so I need to comment on it. Some data was brought up and about how one of our demographic groups, a percentage of them, a high percentage were opting for distance learning. And it was stated that we need to look at what that means. As a data guy who spends his life dealing with data, I can tell you that what that data means is that percentage of that demographic group is opted for distance learning. It in and of itself tells us no more than that. It may imply that there's more to look at, but we can't read anything into it that's not there. And to do so is a logical fallacy. And most of all, we are to be role models, and absolutely we cannot jump to racial conclusions and racial stereotypes. That's setting a bad example. We need to be better than that. And I think we need to hold ourselves to a higher standard. So, thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. Well said. Okay. Any other comments? I think there was something that Del Rey wanted to add after my board report.
No, it's good under consent agenda.
Oh, okay. And then I also just wanted to, I forgot to mention that I did attend Purple Cord, which was fun. It was super fun. The way that they put it together on Zoom was great. And congratulations to all those kids. A lot of them going to take advantage of the 2 years free junior college, which is wonderful. And a lot of them moving on to universities. We do have a fabulous student who is going to Harvard this year, so congrats to him. And I apologize, I don't know your name right now off the top of my head.
David Garcia.
David Garcia. Wow, good job, great job, buddy. And I also attended the top 10. You're right, Steve, that was a great event. So sorry I forgot those on my report. Anybody else have anything else?
Just that the top 10 is one of the most touching things that we do get to enjoy as board members.
Yeah.
It's every year I try to be there, but it didn't work out this year. but it is a very emotional event.
It is. It is. You see them become adults and you think, dang, they've accomplished twice as much in their 18 years than I have.
I know.
58 years, come on. Making us look bad.
Super
All right.
kids.
Moving right along. So item number 14, consent agenda. We've got a request to delete item 7 and to pull item 14. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as revised?
Yes. I
Or as
see.
amended, sorry. Thank you, Mrs. Anderson. And a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Bruno, thank you. And we have, we're going to vote to approve the consent agenda minus item 7 and 14. Dr. Lee,
Aye.
Mrs. Anderson,
Aye.
Mrs. Pope.
That's okay, that's okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You might make it up.
Oh,
Okay.
we could still have discussion. My apologies. Mrs. Pope
Aye.
and Mr. Bruno,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Apologies, she wanted to have discussion. We still could. All right, so then let's take item number 14 independently. Do we have a motion to approve?
Have discussion?
Or we have to move it?
Motion to bring it to the floor.
To approve, motion to approve, and then we need a second.
Motion to approve?
No.
How are we approving it without this? It was,
We're just making the motion, not the vote. We make a motion to approve and second. which
shouldn't we
brings it
be
to the
moving
floor.
to bring it to the floor?
We
That's what
can
it does.
choose to do that, but then we have to make another motion. We could do either. And I was going on the assumption that it eventually will get approved, but maybe I'm incorrect in that assumption.
So I bring it forward for discussion and
Yeah,
then
okay,
have a discussion and then see
All
if
right.
there's a motion to
that's
vote.
fine. Yep, that's fine. So we have a motion by Mrs.
Mhm.
Pope and a second by Mrs. Anderson to bring it to the floor for discussion. Apologies, guys.
No, you're right.
Anyway, go on.
Discussion. Did somebody have something to discuss on this?
Dr. Lee?
So I did ask for this item to be pulled. I stand as a strong advocate for literacy in our community. And I found, several things concerning about this list and just some additional information that I need to make an informed vote on this item. The first question I had was, what is the number of circulating books at Oak Hill Elementary? Because this number of 420 discards seems quite large to me. And I'd like more information on that. So does anyone have that information?
So in the library at Oak Hill, there's about 15,000 books.
15,000 books? Okay. And so the 420 is like, it seems like it would be well under the threshold of the 5%. The next thing was, I'm just curious about what is their collection, maintenance, and leading policy over at Oak Hill? Because this seems to suggest that these books will be discarded, it states, or recycled, which means just thrown away. There are many organizations in our community who would love to have those books. We have Little Free Libraries. We have Friends of the Public Library. I mean, there's a lot of, we have our own students who, might like these materials. So I'm curious about that and what the plan is for these books after.
Sure. And Mr. Grimes can elaborate if you want more, but what we do when we discard, it's the wording that we have to use to allow them to be taken out of circulation there. In fact, I talked to the principal this morning, and what happens is once the board approved the discarding of the books, any book that is still usable, some end up getting damaged and things like that, they actually allow the students, they'll put them out on tables, students can come collect them and take them home if they'd like them. They also have, at Oak Hill, it's a little unique. They have two, I call them birdhouse libraries that they would use to stock. So kind of like the friends of the neighborhood, you come over and you get a book and use that, so they could use them for that. If that all else fails with that, they end up getting them, and then we ended up looking at organizations and letting them come by and pick through and take the ones that they would want. So we don't, unless they're really damaged, we don't throw them away.
But the word
Yeah.
discard is like the legally required.
Correct. It's like surplus.
terminology.
Tax stuff.
And I-
It was the additional word of recycle, which
Yes.
also caused alarms. And then two, I'm just curious because it says that they're out of wear, outdated. I disagree with that assessment based on the list that was provided. I don't know if there were checks for relevancy and circulation stats on those books. And two, if those books are being discarded, recycled, whatever we're calling it, removed from the shelves, what is the replacement plan? Because I know that a number of these books are classics. They are books that have high relevancy for students in elementary school. So is the plan just to discard and not replace, or what is the plan that's not stated here in this document?
Great question. So with that, they do replace the books, and most of the time the library currently is pretty close to capacity. So some of the weeding they do is so they can get new books in there. But it was my understanding from the principal today that they will be replacing a lot of the books. Some of them are just flat out outdated with not accurate information. And so Mr. Grimes had an example of when he was over at Oak Hill, they came in and the information just wasn't even correct anymore. It's like the man will walk on the moon one day type of thing. So some of that type of thing is taken out of circulation because of the relevance. There also is on that sheet, I noticed it's a little bit misleading because some of it says 2002, I think, for a lot of the books. That's actually when we started the archiving system, and I believe we updated our escape or whatever it is to keep them. But I was assured today, actually Mrs. Spohr, the principal, was saying the books will be replaced and updated, and they are always looking to keep more and more books in there.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that clarification. This access to literature and access to knowledge is so crucial for our students.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I appreciate you asking those questions. I think that's very astute.
Yep.
And relevant. Okay, so now, is there any more discussion on this item? Do we have a motion to approve?
May I make a friendly amendment to the motion that it's clarified that we aren't recycling any of our books, that we are going to discard them and not recycle them?
Repurpose them might be a better word. The recycling only was for the ones that were so torn up and damaged that they would put them in the recycling versus the garbage. I think that's where that wording is. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we certainly would. I know that to be a fact, so that suggestion is not out of inappropriate by any means.
Okay, so the friendly amendment is that we will repurpose as many of the books as possible. Is that acceptable? And do we have a motion to approve?
I'll approve as amended.
And
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Pope and Mrs. Anderson. And roll call vote, Dr. Lee.
Aye.
Mrs. Anderson.
Aye.
Mrs. Pope. Aye. Mr. Bruno.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you so much. All right, moving on to the business items. First item is business item A, Director of Facilities job description, maintenance and operations, supervisor job description, and district organizational chart. With increasing responsibilities due to upcoming increasing school construction within the district, we feel it is necessary to change the assistant superintendent of operations and facilities to a director position, focusing on school construction and adding the maintenance and operations supervisor positions to oversee the day-to-day operations in the maintenance, groundskeeping, warehouse, and custodial departments. The organizational chart has been revised, and the change of the assistant superintendent of operations and facilities position to a director of facilities with a maintenance and operations supervisor has been added. Also, some departments have been moved to other directors.
Just a comment.
Oh.
Only the comment being that I just want to acknowledge and thank Dr. Lee for her. She caught something at the bottom of two of the job descriptions. It was some old language. So I appreciate, Dr. Lee, that you brought that up. We were able to get that updated. I had to do with the physical attributes required for the job. So that was a great catch on her part. So thank you for doing that. And then furthermore, we've been talking about this for quite a while. Mr. Deason has been in this work and has done the work. But now as we move to a new chapter with more building and stuff, we find that it would be very important to separate out the work, have someone that would be more over the supervision of the custodial, the day-to-day grounds and maintenance, and allow a new director of facilities to work on individual to keep the facilities up and to par.
Well, it would only make sense with all of the new schools and the renovations coming down the pipe. It's too much for one person,
even superhuman Mr. D said it's too much, so.
And the thing, to have someone take it on right out the gate, we would be setting ourselves up for
Failure.
a failure.
This is kind of back to where we were before we had to slice to the bone and combine a bunch of positions, correct?
This is something very similar to this, yes,
Yeah.
yeah, we director and then, yeah.
Yeah, because all of you did a fantastic job and totally appreciate the fact that you took on positions that you really didn't have to do. It wasn't under your job description to do 12 jobs at the same time,
Yeah.
but all of you did at that time, and we combined positions and made it work for the money that we had. So thank you for doing that. And it's nice to be able to take some of that responsibility off the shoulders of people that have done it for a long time.
Well, if you compare it to districts similar size, you'll see that. So, good job. And a second?
Aye.
Mr. Bruno?
Yeah.
Roll call vote, Dr. Lee,
Aye.
Mrs. Pope,
Aye.
Mrs. Anderson,
I,
Mr. Bruno,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Sorry, I was just gonna give you a chance to drink. Earlier than 8:15 a.m. by the 2022-23 school year. Based on all conditions and variables, we are proposing the new start times for the 2021-22 school year. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll motion to bring it to the floor.
Okay. With a second?
Second.
Which one was first?
It's a tie.
I'll let Carol work that one out. Okay, discussion.
And I'll start first if that's okay, and then just kind of share. I just want to say, one of the things with this is we knew the 22-23 school year was going to be upon us. We knew this new regulation was out there. One of the things we thought is the last year's been so disruptive, to go back to the regular timeframes and then go again to 22-23 and switch again. We thought this would be an appropriate time to do that. So that was the first hurdle. The second hurdle was, you would think that, oh, you could just go ahead and pick times and have those times for the schools to start. It is a much more complicated puzzle than that. And transportation is something that drives a lot of the start times and end times for our schools. We recognize, I was on a call today with parents, and we all kind of were chuckling, it's like, well, we like earlier, we like later. But at the end of the day, what a lot of the parents were saying is, it's a change. And I didn't like the current one, but I like what it will be. And so I think based on all of those variables that we went through with transportation, talking with the schools, trying to make as many accommodations, we did do that. High school schedule, one of the things we talked with Senator Ann McClellan, I know that's right at the time when the regulation calls for, but one of the things that the high school had reached, Center High, push the
Dr. Lee's never been frozen, but the live stream from the boardroom
What,
was.
and we're not on Wi-Fi, so I don't know. Oh, are we back?
Yeah, it keeps saying that your Wi-Fi signal is poor, and then I cannot hear anything coming from that area
Okay,
during
I'll
those
start.
times.
Sorry about that, Dr. Lee.
No, that's okay. Eugene, we are wired, so I don't know why it's saying Wi-Fi. So basically what I was getting at was the variables. We went back to the Center High School and talked to them, and they came back saying that this is the 8:30 time was the one that they really wanted because of the athletics and different activities after school, that it would start pulling kids out of their academics more frequently because of the travel and stuff associated with that.
And I'm just gonna kind of take a side route here and just let everyone know that we are missing our very, very talented IT technician tonight. And so Scott has graciously stepped up into that role, and of course it's
Not very well,
it's
apparently.
not his area of expertise, but he's doing a fantastic job. So I apologize to all of you out there. If we are freezing, we're trying not to. We're trying to keep it going. So just keep texting us if there's a problem. Thank you.
On the start times, I have a question as far as the teachers go and their input on it. Is this a union issue with start times?
So
or-
in our contract, I don't believe we have start time in
No.
there.
We just work a 7.25-hour day,
Right.
determined by the district.
So we
okay.
set the time and then it would
I
go.
was just curious of how they were accepting it and
Yeah.
just.
Well, the school who starts at 9-ish, 30-ish is not the happiest, which is one of my schools, but. But I mean, we work at the pleasure of the board. So.
Right. And the other piece is we tried to get those later times earlier, and we did. Most of our schools currently are 8:50 and later. And so we do have the two that went beyond that. So you have Oak Hill and Dudley, 9:20 and 9:25. And so that does pose some things. So one of the things we would work with those, it's about 10 minutes later than they normally are. So a couple of things like Dudley did as a strategy is we always have a breakfast program. So kids can come eat breakfast. But I noticed Mr. Jackson in his schedule, when I was confirming their times for last year, they had a walking club. So they got out early and had the kids walking. So we do have a lot of strategies that we try to accommodate. And then also families. And one of the things is if it's a real struggle, talk with the principal, and usually we can kind of try to arrange things. We can't have 500 kids there for 2 hours before school. But if there's certain accommodations, our folks are pretty good about working with families to help them the best they can and give them some solutions.
If the parent had a huge issue like work schedules and stuff like that, and they wanted to switch to another site because of the hours, would that be allowed? If there was room.
There's an intra-district process, and if there's room, that it could be entertained, yes.
Okay,
I
thank you.
just have a feedback to provide about these proposed schedules. Just going back to the whole purpose of SB 328, which was all around starting schools later for middle school and high school students. My concern with our proposed schedules is that we seem to be applying that guidance to our elementary schools instead of to our high schools and middle schools, which is where it's needed. SB 328 came about based on the research about the disruption of circadian rhythms for adolescent students with the early start times. The fact that later start times are shown to reduce depression, suicide, obesity, sleep deprivation, and to also lead to higher student learning outcomes at the middle and high school levels. So I think we're doing good to, just meet the baseline of 8:30, but I would like for us to do a little better if we can. For our high school and middle school start times. It looks like Riles is the only one that's, around 8:45 right now. My concern is for the high schools. And that's who this law and this innovation was supposed to help out. And so it seems like we're inching a little, but I wonder if we can do just a little bit more. I'm concerned about A period or electives period, and students still having to be there quite early to be able to participate equitably in those. So I just wanted to voice that, to my fellow colleagues, and, a little bit of context around where did this even all come from?
Thank you, Dr. Lee. And one thing I did in a conversation you and I had, I wanted to double check on that 0 period. We do offer at Center High School 0 period, but it's not the 90-minute, it's 45 minutes every day, which is still earlier, and it's very limited in scope. Of course, while I was talking, they were talking about adding one more possible because it continually conflicts with some kids' schedules. But otherwise, there's not a lot of 0 period that starts before 8:30 at Center High School. At McClellan, they do have a period that they get credit recovery stuff, as I think I shared with you as well. So agree. If the will was to try and move Center High later, it does put those elementaries much earlier. The first proposal was 7:15 a.m. for elementary. And so we really tried to balance. There's so many variables that we're dealing with. It truly is a hard thing. I get the intent of the law, but when it comes down to the practicality of the application, we tried to do the best we could. So that's.
I kind of had the same thought, that it seemed like the purpose, I knew the purpose was for the middle school and the high school because of the, science. But yet the elementary schools were the ones that were starting later and later. So I just was curious if, now I understand, you need a certain amount of time for the high schools, right?
Correct.
In order for them to fill all their classes in.
Correct.
And so if you start the elementary schools earlier than that, then it gets way too early. is what
Right,
you're
because
saying.
it
So-
would force
Because you
them.
gotta figure out the whole puzzle.
Got to get the kids back around. And the high school piece of transportation, they don't just go to one region of the district, they go to all regions. And so it takes time to turn the transportation in between.
And then there's also sports at the high school and middle school, so
Correct.
kids are missing classes.
Correct.
If we go too late. So we're adhering to the letter of the law, the spirit of the law, but we're giving the elementary school kids an even bigger.
Right now. I couldn't get the, trust me, Craig.
Yeah, run out of Wi-Fi. So it has nothing to do with it.
It's operator error on my end.
We hear you again.
All right, we'll just stop it if we get it glitched out. We will stop. 7:45?
7:40 and then
7:40.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Cases, an hour later.
So I have a few concerns with this. I've heard some feedback from the community about Dudley and Oak Hill start times being on the later side and that making it difficult for parents. I like what you were saying about the breakfast program and the schools trying to work with them. Just in light of everything that's been going on this past year, I know that, keeping jobs and making it to work can be a real struggle for parents. So I think we need to be aware of that. Also looking at the idea of a sixth grader from Oak Hill with a 9:25 start time, going to Riles with a 40-minute earlier start time, that's gonna be quite a shock. So I understand it's difficult to place all these things, but these are things to keep into consideration. I have very mixed feelings about wanting a later start time for the high school, especially, and the benefits that come with that, balancing that against the athletes and not missing too much school and all of the other after-school programs and everything, stretching out their evening late. I'd like to say that as our district continues to expand and that changes logistics, we might want to reconsider this in future years.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I know Mr. Deason and I have spoken about too is transportation does guide a lot of this. We struggle, as every district does, for drivers. If we had a plethora of drivers, I might have a different thing. So as drivers increase, as we get busing, as things, we certainly can revisit this. But under the conditions we're under right now, I hate to say it, it's the best we could possibly do to try to meet all those different variables. But to take your point, Mr. Bruno, as we move forward, if it becomes accessible to alter either way, then we could certainly entertain that.
Yeah, and I also think one of the considerations we might want to think about if and when we do change is that a lot of times the parents go to work and the older kids are responsible for getting the younger kids to school. And so if their school starts before the elementary school, then that's a challenge. Now, I don't know if that's a problem for
that's the
people in our
challenge.
district.
The challenge we have right now with our elementary starting at 8:50 and later,
Yeah,
and then Center High School in McClellan at 8:30 and then 7:40. So
Yeah.
it is a challenge. I mean,
and then the second thought I had was if our problem is getting drivers, then maybe we need to revisit our salary schedule for drivers.
I was gonna ask the same thing.
we have and we continue to, and I know
It's a statewide issue.
And again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
every district is
And
different.
didn't we look at combining drivers with custodial staff like we used to do?
we did, but the training and stuff is so different now for drivers. It's extremely intensive. And we're actually increasing their hours to try and make sure that we get them on, because getting a 2-hour during the day is a hard job to fill for someone who has a very highly technical and extremely responsible job.
Yeah.
You know, taking 60 kids to school is a big deal. So it's the nature of the work. I mean, they are driving a classroom. You know, it's hard with a classroom, but now put them on wheels and you're driving around town picking them up and dropping them. It's stressful. And I give them kudos left and right. And they are remarkable people for doing that.
And they're trying to manage these students while keeping their eye on the road.
Correct.
Mr. Deason, how many bus drivers do we currently have?
We need 13,
Okay,
and I
how
believe
many?
we have 9 right now. We do have a class coming up, a training class, and we have 4 people that are signed up for it already. So we're hoping that our training class this summer, along with more hours to provide for the drivers, we may even be able to steal drivers away from other districts if we're offering, you know, more hours, because that's what people are looking for. You know, they don't want to have a 5-hour route, they want to have an 8-hour route. So
How long is their training?
it's, I think it's 40 hours in the classroom and 20 hours behind the wheel.
And passing that 20-hour, it's not just behind, I mean, the test it's grueling.
And then you have,
Yeah, and we
you have a written
provide that
test.
test.
You have a written test from CHP, you have a driving test from CHP, you have to go to DMV and take your Class B license. On top of the additional training every year, you have to have 10 hours of additional training.
So do we pay for the training and testing and such have you?
We provide the majority of the training in-house.
So basically, the schedule is due to transportation and
So-
athletics.
And I don't know if I should really bring this up, but the easy solutions for you would be, if we didn't have transportation, it would be easy to determine start times. Or we could have more transport if we were able to get drivers, but there's an expense involved in that. You know, if we have more drivers and we need more buses, you know, if your transportation cost doubles in order for you to have more control of your times, those are the things that you're gonna be weighing out.
So transportation
My
drives
question
it.
is where we stand on buses, because we've got to add to the bus fleet if they're gonna be building out there.
Right.
And we are,
We-
we're preparing for that, that's not a problem. But if you wanna increase service to be able to not have to
Can you
wait.
come up to the mic? I don't know if I don't know if you can hear you or not from where he is. Okay, thank you.
If you want to increase service to be able to provide like people picking up one elementary school instead of picking up two elementary schools, you're gonna have to double your drivers and double your buses. So it's difficult to, I mean, it's an easy decision, but fiscally, it comes down to fiscally being able to do it, having drivers that'll actually do the work, and then having the times that you want.
Can we look at the school sites and have like all bus riders on a certain schedule?
That's you then you'd be taking, and then the travel time in between, because now you're picking up for the entire district and you're taking kids out of their quote neighborhood as well. So it's hard because, as Craig points out, it's a fiscal decision, but it's really not, because if you don't have someone to spend the money on, it's not a fiscal decision. If I drive through Twin Rivers and San Juan to get here, every single one of those districts have signs up as we do. Drivers wanted, drivers needed. It is a statewide, as Ms. Mason mentioned. Our department does a great job. Cindy does a remarkable job organizing training. We train them, we bring them in, and we're trying to make sure that the pay is good and the hours are good. And the hours meaning not, 8 to 5 or whatever, meaning the number of hours, because if they can go over and get 8 hours in Twin Rivers, let's say, and they're gonna only get 6 here, well, pay's pretty comparable. I'm gonna go get the 8-hour job if that's.
Yeah. Do we still use Michaels as a consulting service or a transportation service?
We are down 4 drivers right now, so we are using Michael's. I believe we have one. We try to keep it as low as we can. But it comes down to, do we want to provide good service? And if we do, we need to make sure that we have enough drivers to drive the routes. And then the supervisors are driving, the dispatchers are driving instead of doing the other jobs that they need to be doing. So it's a challenge, but it's amazing the way they pull it together day after day.
So thank you, Mr. Deason, for explaining how it's connected to the transportation. And to Superintendent Lair for explaining why, the 8:30 time is the greatest compromise we can get as far as lateness goes. That makes sense to me. Especially for our students that are involved in athletics or, extracurricular things. I still have a concern with the Dudley Elementary time and the Oak Hill start time. The guidance wasn't intended for elementary students. It was intended for high school and middle school. And so I wonder if those 2 schools are on the same route, and if they could potentially start earlier. I'm thinking of families that have multiple students at multiple grade levels, convenience for them, things that just make sense for the age level of the students. And that late start time for elementary schools, I don't think is something that anyone has recommended. So I'm just wondering if there's a way that we can move those start times up for Dudley and Oak Hill that would still allow transportation. It looks like maybe they're on the same route. That's why they're both starting at that 9:20 time. Could they not?
Because Oak Hill starts at 9:10 right now,
Yes,
and you start at 9:10.
8:55.
Yes.
So could they not move up slightly, so that if parents are dropping off students at elementary, middle, and high school potentially, they wouldn't have to do things so late and risk their jobs. I'm thinking of people who are just coming back after coronavirus who need a more regular working schedule for the lower elementary kids.
Dr. Lee, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I think the main thing that we would see would be is if we did move those 2 schools, they are going to be in the 7:30 hour.
What about if we were to add just 1 new bus and 1 new driver?
We're well.
Schools at the same start time. Well, or I mean, 5-minute staggered instead of. Would kind of address that issue, and it might not be bad to just look at what that cost would be. Obviously, the cost is not the issue necessarily as much as
I think
the
we're eliminating
availability of
problems though, because-
drivers, but it's something to consider, to look at.
I know parents who are thrilled with that late start time.
And
And
trust
we're
me,
asking for trouble.
if we could get them all at 8 AM and all at 8:30, 8:45, we would do it. And so I'm so it's improved for the schools. Take the high school out of the mix for a minute, but it is improving to
as suggest.
Oh, we're getting a frozen feed here in Zoom land.
There you go, so.
I'm just gonna stand right here because it works.
You're the antenna.
Staff recommended, and when we have the opportunity to reconvene. Staff for.
Make that as a priority.
So can you,
I don't
Sorry.
think, no,
I was gonna,
I'm only one person here, but I don't think that we need to jump into doing that until we find out how it works.
Right, and I guess what I'm saying is, we're gonna have time because I can't jump into it. And we can't switch. We need to commit to families for the year. It's hard
Yeah.
to. Year, can we move them? Can we move them? Can we move them? It also gives us an opportunity, to Dr. Lee's point. Let's look at the high school. How our kids are. It's a really difficult situation, and as Dr. Lee pointed out, I kept going back and saying, give me 5 more minutes, Craig, give me 5 more minutes, I want 5 more early. You can't do it, and Cindy wants to in transportation, but she has to tell us no because she knows she can't get the kids there.
Yeah.
And I don't want kids, I mean, I don't like being late, and I don't want to stress kids out because now they're running late, they might have missed the opening, I don't want to overcommit on that.
And ridership is so unpredictable because you might have 10 kids throughout the year and then one day you've got 50 kids because it's raining or something.
Yeah.
You have to allow for the most.
so
But
can
then-
we,
Can I say one more thing,
Yes,
Hillary?
absolutely.
And then at the same time, we can talk to transportation about looking at what would it take, is one bus driver gonna make a difference? Does it need to be 2 bus drivers? And we can start looking at a plan on what it would actually take with buses and drivers to be able to loosen up the inflexibility of.
I'm back.
Okay, I'll start that one over. It's from Anonymous. North Country has started for the 21 years I have been working there. After 9, So it is our turn to start earlier. Why is it, this is a concern now, the two schools with the early start times have to change, become a problem.
Well, and she's got a point, because as Miss Mason was saying and myself, Oak Hill has started at 9:10 since I've been there. Miss Mason, and as the anonymous said, has started at 8:50.
Right, so this did come up at our rec council meeting today as clarification. So traditionally, Spinelli and North Country have been the late start schools for the elementary campuses, starting at 9:10 and 9:15 respectively, I think. And then the earlier campuses, if you can say 8:50 and 8:55 are the early start times, then they were the early campus. But it is a difference of about a half hour from the first elementary school to the last elementary school to start. And then they go from those late start times to Riles, which is a 7:50 a.m. start time. So it is 1 hour difference. So it is already a jump to go from elementary school to Riles. And then the high school starts at 7:40 right now, as is. I mean, in a traditional year, I mean, this is exempt. So next year, what the teachers at North Country and Spinelli are excited about is actually not starting after 9 o'clock. And of course, Oak Hill and Dudley teachers are on the opposite view, like, oh my God, now we're gonna have to start after 9 o'clock instead of at 8:55. So, I mean, we are already starting really late. So a start time of the proposed 9:20 or 9:25 for some campuses wouldn't make hardly any difference. And then we'll be starting, what, 50 minutes later. Yeah.
It's a tough one.
I've been preaching we should start later at the high school for years.
Thank you, Ms. Mason. Yeah. Do we have any more public comment now? Thank you. Is there any more questions, comments, discussion? Do we have a motion to approve?
I would motion to approve with an amendment of reconvening this and next school year.
No second.
Okay. Roll call vote, Dr. Lee,
Abstain.
Mrs. Anderson,
Aye.
Mrs. Pope,
Aye.
Mr. Hunt, Bruno.
I'll take that as a compliment.
She's supposed to stay.
And the chair votes aye. Sorry about that. Mr. Mr. I must be my bewitching hour. Start losing it. Okay. Business item C, Expanded Learning Opportunities Grant Plan. The Expanded Learning Opportunities Grant Plan, ELOGP, how do you pronounce that? ELOGP?
We have a lot of different ways we call it. Can't say them all.
Describes the district's plan to use ELO funding to provide supplemental support to mitigate learning loss as a result of COVID-19. So this is the plan we've all been waiting for. How are we going to spend that next bundle of money to help our students?
Right.
So we have a presentation.
So the plan is outlined in the backup. This is a portion of the money. This is the state portion through AB 86, which the state is. And so one of the things that this plan is not all inclusive. This plan addresses 2.6 million of the pot that we received. As we talked last meeting, when Ms. Coronado went through how the funds could be spent, we had referenced some of these would be in there. And so to give you a perspective on what we're doing, we're looking at summer school, the summer learning. We have over 1,000 students enrolled. All students are welcome, and it's happening at every site. Our goal is for this year. We're also looking for next summer to offer this robust of a program. I think we will have to put in some other ESSER money to make that work. We also are staffing with 7.5 intervention teachers at the elementary with 8 classified support positions to assist for interventions to target our EL students, our special ed students, our homeless, our foster, and students who have learning loss during this time as we transition back. At the high school and middle school level, we're looking at adding 4 teachers into that mix, 2 at each, to support as an intervention model, to also look at credit recovery, reduce class size. And so it's a little bit more, we're still working out the details on what those will look like, but it really is to achieve intervention for our kids that are most at risk and have suffered the most from and I know Miss Kelly, you and I talked about this, I don't like the word learning loss either, it sounds really negative, but to help kids achieve as a result of the pandemic that we've been going through. Additionally, we have out for social emotional supports in this plan, where we would add 3 additional mental health workers to fully staff each school. So each school would have a mental health worker. One of the things we're looking at is we do have postings out. If we can't fill it, we have COVID dollars. We could actually supplement to bring in contracted to be there when we start the school year. And then with that, we're adding a social worker through this at the Family Resource Center to provide targeted support for our homeless and foster students through Mr. Miranda's office. And actually, I believe he had interviews, and they had 3 applicants, so I'm hoping that one of those were successful. And then those items alone cover that $2.6 million. Does that mean that we will not continue with things going forward? We would want to supplement those, and I want to try to commit to these things for 2 years. Once we see the ESSER dollars move in, to be very honest, I'd like to commit for 3 years, but in my mind, I'm telling people 2, and then we'd be able to roll forward. When we get to LCAP, which you guys will get the pleasure of seeing here in a next month, we also have more supports for our students and some targeted things that we're working to assist with the reopening piece through the ESSER dollars, and then obviously our typical LCFF funds. But I want to make it clear, this is not the plan that solves all the millions of dollars that we've received. This is for that AB 86 requirement. And I want to give compliment to Mr. Jordan and his office, Ms. Jubeli. This was dropped on us when the AB 86 was approved, which was unprecedented. They did that before the time. Then I think in March, they gave us the template, told us to fill it out. So we've hit the ground running. Talked with parents from our DLAC today and our DAC group and explained it to them. They were very excited about the opportunity. I explained the same thing. This is not all we're doing. This is for this plan, what we're doing. And we're excited to support our families in this.
You know, you mentioned using some of the funding to contract, and that is actually what CSBA is recommending, is that it's a lot easier to use those one-time funds for contract services than it is to hire people when you don't know how long we're going to be able to hire them for. So there has to be a balance, of course. I would much rather see new employees than contracting services, but I understand those one-time dollars is kind of titchy to kind of hire a person and say, yeah, it's gonna go a couple of years, and then we may or may not have funding to continue it, so.
The one thing, and you all know this, I think, is we like to maximize our dollar.
Yeah.
Contracted employees are pricey.
Yep.
And I tend to believe when there are employees, I think that they serve us even better.
Yep.
And we have found some of our contracted people over the years have gone, I really like Center. And we've got them out of their contracts to come work for us. So while I agree with you, I would still want to try and get our own people.
Yes.
But I think as a backup, as Jordan and I just spoke about this again this week, is, you know, what mental health workers can we get? We don't want to hit the ground not running. So that's definitely in the mix.
Gotta have something in place. Any other discussion on this?
No,
We haven't
learning
got a
loss
motion yet.
is a huge issue for me, and if this is not all that we're doing, I'm sure that there's other plans.
This is a big step to help. I will tell you that. This puts a lot of resources in, and I think we'll definitely be willing and able to help. And I think when we see more coming in, and then I really think the sustainability is what's critical with this, not just 1 year and then we're out. We've talked about when do these dollars start to expire, and maximizing, ESSER 2, when does that go out? ESSER 3, when does that go out? And trying to put those monies aside so we can keep this rolling. Because I think this is not gonna be a 1 year and then the problem is solved. It's gonna be something that we need to commit to and work for.
I just want to thank Mr. Jordan, of course, and Mr. Bailey for getting this out to us in such a timely manner. I can tell that there was a lot of thought to it, and the committee representatives that Mr. Mayor spoke of. Thank you for your input.
May I just add real quick? It's
No.
really Mrs. Jabali, sorry. It's really Mrs. Jabali took everybody's ideas and put it in and wrote that report. She gets the credit for that.
Thank
She
you,
did a
Mr.
great job.
Bailey.
Great job.
It's very easy to understand.
My only concern is that this identifies, it's a large inclusive list, I agree, but I'm concerned that a parent is gonna see that list and say, oh, my child doesn't qualify. My child's being left out because they don't have special ed or, you know, the other things listed.
And those are criteria for, you need to target populations, so yes, but when a parent comes to get service, we don't have a box to check necessarily, we serve our kids. So I hear you, but I don't think a parent's gonna read this and go, oh my gosh, I don't, because we're gonna be in, I know Ms. Mason works in the intervention team right now at Dudley, we serve our kids. And so yes, we do have to target our populations because that is the conditions and I think it's a good thing. But I think we don't turn people away, and these additional resources will allow us to broaden and deepen what we're doing compared to what I'm sorry, no disrespect, what we have been doing, because we're gonna have more personnel resources to actually make a difference.
But as school starts next year and these kids are identified in the classroom, are the teachers gonna be told, you know, let your parents know there's extra help?
We have support plans through our MTSS process that actually help identify that, and we will be communicating. We set up strategies and goals, and so yes, they will be reached out to, and they will be provided with a differing level depending on what tier of support. It may be tier 1, maybe right in the classroom. It may be tier 2 in the classroom, but more enriched. So yes, we absolutely, this will look more like we're helping you versus someone having to research and find us for the help. We come to you.
I almost would like to see something go home that says, if you think your child is missing something, let us know and we can evaluate it.
Yeah, and we would always do that. And we also are looking at some different screeners that we do, assessments, social, emotional, and academic, that will help target and start those conversations if parents are a part of it. So absolutely.
Well, that's also part of the parent-teacher conference.
Right.
The first quarter, they come together and they discuss the issues the student is having or what the teacher
But it would be
is.
nice though for them to see in writing that we're here for you, let us know. You know, even if you don't think you qualify, let us know what you think you're missing.
Any other discussion or questions, concerns, public comment? Go ahead, Mrs. Sun.
This one is from Anonymous. Why is a temporary position not being added at McClellan to help support learning loss there?
That's a good question.
And
So will
we
that
actually,
be included in other?
so one of the things is this number of students that we have there, and we believe it might be actually less next year. So that is something we would target and look at, and if we need to. We also have CSI money, which is an additional amount for Title I that is providing an extra academic coordinator position. So that is definitely on our radar, but based on the numbers there right now, we want to see where we are, and then if we have to, we could.
So what you're saying is that another pot of money is already funding an additional position.
That is there, it was there this year, and however, it was COVID
And
related,
that
so
this particular pot of money, you're basically reserving it based on the numbers that are at McClellan, but it is still going to be, continue to be considered.
and as we see the numbers of students coming in and the ratios of student to teacher, and then we look at that, we absolutely would. We're also doing a lot of credit recovery, so we're not quite there to see who will be coming over. So that's
Yeah.
something that we will certainly visit,
Well,
and
and
we have the
that's
funds to do it.
another thing, we might end up with more students at McClellan because there's so much credit recovery.
And it could be
And-
not this year, but it could be the
The
following year.
following year, that's true.
In 21,
And then
22.
We
Correct.
have another pot of money that's gonna go to this same type of thing, but we haven't even figured out how much money it is yet, correct?
We have two actually, don't we?
Two more,
ESER two is
yeah.
coming in, and then
So-
ESER three is
So
still on the
just
rise.
make sure we put that at the top of the list of considerations when we start.
Correct.
looking at that.
So Mr. Jordan, I have a question. How does this pertain to the preschool? Do they have a pot of money for their group of students? If, you know, for,
So
but
we just hired another preschool teacher to be able to split that up to lower their class size down as well, and supplying them with any materials that they need, and supplies and materials as well. And we can, obviously, we continue to look as the year goes on and see what else they need.
Has our class size increased, or do you anticipate an increase from that to next year?
It's hard to tell.
It is a moving target.
It is.
I would say based on history, it will increase.
But kids haven't been interacting with each other either, so there might not be as many students. Okay, maybe that was inappropriate to say.
Well, we're speculating. I don't know if we're getting off topic, but at this point, we've added a second teacher. Or I don't know if we've added it, but we posted it, correct?
No, we've hired.
Oh, we've hired. So
So it's a
that will
teacher,
serve.
it's not an assistant.
Correct.
It's a teacher, correct. So we'll have, sorry. So we'll have aides both for the current teacher and aides for the new teacher as well.
Maybe more public comment? No. Any other discussion, questions, concerns? We have a motion to approve item C.
All motion.
Second,
And Dr. Lee is a second. Roll call vote, Dr. Lee,
aye.
Mrs. Anderson.
Aye.
Mrs. Pope. Aye. Mr. Bruno.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, passed. Advanced planning is next on the agenda, item number 16. Future meeting dates, board workshop is Saturday, May 29. It will be live streamed, so you're welcome to listen in, I believe. That might bore you to tears, but we are basically taking a CSBA training called Good Beginnings. So again, you're welcome to pop in and listen in on that. There is a special meeting on Wednesday, June 9 at Riles Middle School here. And then there is the regular board meeting on Wednesday, June 16th at Riles Middle School. Do we have any suggested agenda items?
Not necessarily for the next board meeting, but I would like the board to think about the naming of the school west of Riles. With all the building that's happening north of PFE, it's something that we should look into. I did talk to Mr. Deason about this as well as Mr. Lair. They did say, they don't know when it's still gonna be, what school's gonna be next. It could be,
Could be over in the Lennar. The unique thing about that and naming that is usually you don't name a school that early, but we've owned the property.
yes.
And so to be quite honest, we just call it future school. So if the board wanted to take that up at some point, it would help us with documents. I know at one point it was Rex Fortune, and then it got moved to the newest school, which now we know is the Sierra Vista. So if the board wants to take that up, I would only encourage that because we actually own the property. But I would not take up because we know where schools will be, we'll start naming this one and this one. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves with that.
So maybe August, we can put it on the agenda.
And I would like to add an agenda item, a discussion item to talk about doing a comprehensive survey of our students and families and staff prior to the beginning of the school year. I would like to have a discussion item added to the agenda to discuss doing a comprehensive survey of our students, families, and staff. And the contents of which would be the discussion fodder.
And which agenda were you wanted to add that to?
I beg your pardon?
Which agenda were you wanted to add that to?
I'm hoping we're gonna put it on one of the June agendas, because if we're gonna do the survey through the summer, we need to get moving on it.
So I'm sorry, Steve.
What's the survey on?
That's what the discussion will be.
So June 9th is always, that's the public hearing for budget and LCAP. I would suggest we agendize it for the 16th for that discussion, if that meets with your approval.
So it's just a survey and we don't know what we're surveying?
Well, I mean,
She's gonna talk.
that's what the discussion is gonna be. What do we want to survey? Or, what kind of information do we need to gather to help serve our families as best as we can in the fall? It's time. Dr. Lee's been talking about this for a couple of meetings now. It's definitely a topic of discussion that's coming up in my Masters in Governance classes and my CSBA classes. Just getting a pulse on, what's going on with the kids, how their return to school was, what kind of services will help kids feel more secure coming back to school, will help the parents feel more secure sending the kids back to school, and just getting a pulse on what's going on
I agree, but we gotta be cognizant, because we survey our parents throughout the year, all the time, and we just.
Well, that's why I wanna
They
do,
get tired of
I
it.
wanna do some pre-planning and do it. I know that we have a survey planned
Yeah, and I would think,
already, so I wanted, that's exactly my point, is that we want to kind of make it comprehensive, not too much information, but at least get to the point of what's our most important things we wanna find out and put it all in one survey, so we're not overtaxing our families.
and we are surveying right now for LCAP, full disclosure, LCAP and ELO. I think giving it a little bit of time, let the year settle with, so I think June 16th to discuss it is perfect.
Yeah,
And then
because
we
then
can-
we're looking at
And it
July.
will be summer, so we'll have some time to put it together and then get it, but I think if we want good results, people are, they're surveyed out. Like,
Yeah,
They
so
really
so I
are.
think it's great that you are recommending we do this a little bit
A
later.
little bit later, in time for fall planning, to get the school started, the beginning of the school year. But also, just like you said, they're surveyed out, so, if we pre-plan doing a comprehensive survey once, then it might mitigate some of that over-survey.
Sounds great. I have it down.
Okay. Any other agenda items, future agenda items? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you much.
And that's all.
Sorry.
Motion and a second, there you go, we're done. You got a roll call. I think